in the quiet corridors of time, long before the cities and machines of today, long before writing and recorded memory, there walked a being who would shape the very path of human destiny. This being was not yet us, not yet Homo sapiens, but a close ancestor known as Homo erectus. For nearly 2 million years, they endured the shifting climates of Earth, the roaring winds of ice ages, the blaze of savanna fires, and the challenges of a world both harsh and magnificent. Their story is not one of haste, but of patience, endurance, and the steady rhythm of survival, echoing like a heartbeat across epochs. As you let your body rest, and as the gentle cadence of this narration accompanies your breathing, imagine yourself stepping softly into their ancient world, where each day was not rushed, but lived in harmony with the turning of the earth and the warmth of the sun. The earth 2 million years ago was a place of transformation. Forests were retreating in some regions, giving way to open grasslands. The air was sometimes thick with moisture in the tropics, and at other times crisp and cool in the drier highlands. Rivers wound their way through fertile valleys, while vast stretches of savanna opened under expansive skies. It was a world teeming with life, from the heavy-footed elephants and ancient species of giraffes, to antelopes darting through the grasses, and great cats prowling in the shadows. This was the stage upon which Homo erectus found themselves, not as mere bystanders, but as actors slowly learning their roles in the intricate drama of existence. They stood taller and walked more confidently upright than many of their predecessors. With long legs and narrower hips, they were built not just for walking, but for endurance. Imagine them moving across the plains, hour after hour, step after step, their bodies adapted for covering great distances under the sun. They carried with them a quiet persistence, the same persistence you feel when your breath finds its rhythm and your body begins to settle into rest. They were wanderers, explorers, and survivors, inhabiting landscapes that stretched across Africa, into Asia, and even parts of Europe. No other hominin before them had achieved such a vast range, and it would be many millennia before another species rivaled their success. At night, when darkness fell upon their camps, they may have huddled together, not only for warmth but for the comfort of togetherness. Their minds, though not yet like ours, were alive with awareness, curiosity, and perhaps a spark of wonder. For one of the defining achievements of Homo erectus was fire. It is thought that they were among the first to harness it to draw from lightning strike or smoldering embers and keep it alive, feeding it gently with sticks and leaves. Picture the glow of a fire against their faces, the flickering light painting shadows on nearby rocks, the warmth spreading through their bodies after a long day of movement. Around these fires, safety grew. Around these fires, bonds deepened. Around these fires, the seeds of culture were being sown, long before the words to describe it were ever formed. They crafted tools with their hands, simple at first, but increasingly refined. Stones chipped into sharp edges, capable of slicing meat, scraping hides, or cutting wood. These tools were more than objects. They were extensions of thought, physical expressions of ingenuity. In their repetitive tapping of stone upon stone, there was rhythm, almost like the slow, steady beat of a drum, echoing through the valleys of time. These tools were durable, lasting far longer than the fragile twigs and leaves that earlier beings had used with stone. Homo erectus carved out a niche in the world, demonstrating a resilience that would carry them through millennia. Survival for them was not about dominance, but about balance. They observed the herds, learning their patterns. They followed the migrations of animals, understanding when to approach and when to stay back. They gathered fruits, nuts, roots, and leaves. Their knowledge of plants passed quietly from one generation to the next, like whispers in the wind. Their diet was varied, their adaptability remarkable, and it was this flexibility that allowed them to endure across climates, across continents, across the great changes of Earth itself. Imagine the passing of seasons as they might have experienced them, rain swelling rivers and turning grasslands lush and green. Then dry months when the land cracked under the sun and water was scarce. The patience required to live in such cycles is the same patience that guides the rhythm of your breath tonight. A steady inhalation, a gentle exhalation, never rushed, always flowing. Homo erectus survived because they moved with the earth, not against it. They learned to pace themselves, to persist, to endure. The span of 2 million years is difficult. To grasp it is far longer than the entire history of our own species, longer than every recorded word. every built monument, every fleeting empire. For 2 million years, Homo erectus walked upon the earth. Entire landscapes rose and fell in that time. Rivers shifted course, mountains weathered, climates shifted again and again. Yet through it all, they remained. This endurance speaks not to fleeting brilliance, but to a profound steadiness, a resilience so deep it becomes almost meditative to contemplate. Close your eyes now, if you wish, and picture them beneath the stars, the same stars we see today shone upon their nights. Perhaps they gazed upward, sensing the vastness, feeling the coolness of night air, listening to the distant calls of nocturnal animals. Perhaps they felt, in some quiet way, their smallness in the expanse of nature, even as we feel it now when, looking at the heavens, in their long journey, they carried forward a light, not a sudden burst, but a slow-burning flame that would eventually lead to us. And so we begin this long reflection on their story, a story of endurance, adaptation, and quiet strength, a story meant not to stir urgency, but to bring calm understanding. As their lives stretched across the ages, so too will this narration flow gently across the hours, guiding you through their world with a pace as steady as their footsteps, as calming as the embers of their ancient fires. The story of Homo erectus unfolds slowly, like the steady passing of clouds across an endless sky. To understand how they survived for nearly 2 million years, we must sink into their world. Not in a rush, but with patience, step by step, just as they lived. Imagine their bodies in motion, lean and purposeful, built for long journeys. Unlike many creatures of their time, they were not sprinters. They did not rely on sudden bursts of speed. Instead, they carried within their frame the quiet strength of endurance. Their long legs, narrower hips, and balanced form allowed them to walk and run across vast distances, not to chase, but to follow, to persist. In this, they mirrored the rhythm of nature itself, slow, enduring, unrelenting. They were persistence hunters. Picture this, under the bright African sun, when the day grew hot and many animals sought shade. Homo erectus kept moving. They tracked their prey not with sharp claws or sudden leaps, but with observation, patience, and relentless motion. Step after step, they followed, while the animals they pursued tired in the heat. Hours passed. The sun climbed and descended, until finally, the prey weakened, slowed, and faltered. It was not brute strength that won the day, but the ability to outlast. In this way, Homo erectus became masters of endurance, teaching us that sometimes survival is not about power, but about patience. But their survival was not won only by hunting. They gathered from the land as well. Their eyes were sharp to the subtle changes of plants, the ripening of fruits, the hidden roots beneath the soil. They carried within them a knowledge passed quietly from one to another, which leaves nourished, which berries harmed, which bark could soothe. There were no written words to record such wisdom, only memory, gesture, and demonstration. And yet it endured across countless generations, as steady and reliable as the cycles of the moon. This ability to adapt, to eat from the land in many ways, was another secret to their long survival. When the rains came and fruit was plentiful, they gathered. When the dry season tightened its grip and herds moved on, they followed with patient steps, relying on meat and marrow. When rivers swelled and fish could be caught, they learned to seize those opportunities as well. Their resilience was not tied to a single way of living, but to many, each chosen in harmony with the land. Imagine their tools, simple yet profound. A hand axe, shaped by careful strikes of stone upon stone, its sharp edge glinting in the light. With it they could cut meat from bone, shape wood, or dig into soil. To hold such a tool was to hold a key to survival, to efficiency, to possibility. And once made, such tools could endure for years, even decades. Across valleys and riverbanks, such artifacts remain buried beneath the earth, silent witnesses to their ingenuity. The very stone remembers their touch, their patience, their intent. At night, the world around them grew darker, filled with the calls of creatures unseen. But with fire, the night changed. The flickering glow pushed back the shadows. The warmth comforted their bodies. Sparks drifted into the air like tiny stars, as if the sky had bent low to meet the earth. Around the fire they gathered. Perhaps they shared food, or sat in silence, watching the flames dance. The fire was more than heat, more than protection. It was a companion, a presence, a symbol of safety in a world filled with uncertainty. Through fire, Homo erectus extended their day into the night, giving themselves not only warmth but also time. Their journey was not confined to one land alone. From Africa, they spread outward, step by step, generation after generation. Across Asia they wandered, reaching as far as Indonesia, even China. Into Europe they ventured, adapting to new climates, new challenges, new landscapes. This expansion across continents speaks not to conquest, but to adaptability. They were not conquerors of the earth, but participants in it, learning each new environment as a student learns from a teacher. Whether in the warm savannas of Africa or the forests of Asia, they endured, adjusting their ways to the rhythms of each place. The scale of time in which they lived is humbling. Imagine a single lifetime, stretching for perhaps 40 or 50 years. Now imagine such lifetimes passing one after another, hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. The earth shifted beneath their feet, rivers carved new paths, forests grew and receded, glaciers advanced and retreated. Yet through all these changes, Homo erectus endured. This endurance was not built on sudden leaps forward, but on steady, quiet persistence, a kind of patience so vast it seems almost beyond imagining. Their brains were larger than those of earlier hominins, though not yet as large as ours. Within those skulls, thought flickered and grew, not in a rush, but in slow expansion. With larger brains came more complex behaviors, more refined tools, greater cooperation. The seeds of culture, of shared understanding, of social bonds, were planted in those ancient minds. Around their fires, they may have shared not only food, but ideas, gestures, sounds, beginnings of communication more complex than mere calls. From such seeds would one day grow the languages we now speak, the words you now hear, the voice that guides you into rest, that as you breathe slowly, feel the calm persistence of their story. In every step they took, there was no haste. In every tool they shaped, there was patience. In every fire they tended, there was care. Their way of life teaches us something profound, that survival is not always about speed or brilliance, but about harmony, balance, and endurance. Just as your body now seeks balance in sleep, their lives sought balance with the earth itself. Picture them beneath the stars once more. The Milky Way stretched above them, just as it does above us. The constellations were there, though unnamed. The planets glowed faintly in their courses. To gaze at the night sky was to feel the vastness, to sense something greater, though their minds did not yet conceive of galaxies or universes. Perhaps they felt the same quiet wonder we feel, that sense of belonging to something immeasurable. In those moments, the boundary between them and us softens, and we are reminded that their story flows into ours. Homo erectus survived, not for centuries, not for millennia, but for millions of years. This fact alone carries with it a calming weight, like the steady beat of a drum echoing across time. In the face of storms, shifting lands, and changing climates, they endured. And as we reflect on their lives, we too are reminded of the strength that comes not from rushing forward, but from moving in harmony with the flow of existence. The world of Homo erectus was vast, stretching across landscapes that today seem impossibly distant from one another. From the grassy plains of Africa to the humid forests of Southeast Asia, from the rugged highlands to the fertile valleys carved by rivers, they adapted to it all. Their footsteps pressed into soils of many kinds, their eyes scanned horizons of every shade, and in every place they reached, they found ways to endure, weaving themselves into the rhythm of each land, like a quiet, steady note in an endless song. It is easy to think of them only as primitive figures in the past, but when we slow our imagination, when we allow ourselves to rest within their world, they become more vivid, more real. Their bodies were strong, their movements graceful in their own way. They had the endurance to travel long distances, and the awareness to notice the smallest signs in their environment. A bent blade of grass might have told them of passing prey, a faint smell on the wind of water nearby, a distant call of an animal warning of danger. Their senses were tuned to survival, not through urgency but through attentiveness, the kind of deep listening that comes from living close to the earth. They were not alone in their world. The landscapes they walked were shared with countless other creatures. Ancient elephants with curved tusks roamed the plains, while enormous cats lurked in the shadows, patient hunters of their own. Birds filled the skies, some familiar, some long vanished. Rivers teemed with fish, and forests hid primates not unlike themselves. In this vibrant web of life, Homo erectus found a place, They were neither the strongest nor the fastest, but they were adaptable, observant, and above all, enduring. Picture them at the water's edge, crouching to drink from a stream, the coolness of the water against their skin, the ripples spreading outward, the reflection of sky and tree mirrored in the surface. They might have gathered stones there, shaping them into tools with deliberate strikes. The sound of stone upon stone echoed across valleys, rhythmic, almost musical. Each fragment chipped away revealed a sharper edge, a tool born from patience and skill. In these simple acts, they reshaped not only stone, but their own future. Fire remained their greatest ally. Imagine the crackle of branches as flames caught, the smoke rising into the twilight air. The warmth radiated outward, drawing them close. Predators hesitated at the edge of the glow, wary of the strange flickering light. For Homo erectus, fire was both shield and comfort, a companion in the long night. Around it, they could cook food, softening it, making it easier to chew and digest. This in turn gave them more energy, strengthening their bodies, fueling their journeys. The bond between Homo erectus and fire was more than practical. It was transformative, a quiet revolution that shaped their survival across the ages. Generations passed, and still they endured. The cycle of life repeated endlessly. Infants were born, cradled in their mother's arms. Children grew, learning by watching, imitating, practicing. Adults hunted, gathered, shaped tools, tended fire. Elders shared what they knew through gestures, through presence, through the simple act of living. Each generation carried forward the wisdom of those before, not in words, but in actions, in habits, in instincts honed across time. In this way, their knowledge flowed like a river, passing steadily from one life to the next, never written down, yet never lost. As climates shifted, they adjusted. When ice spread across parts of the earth, they learned to endure colder air, seeking shelter, clothing themselves with the hides of animals. When forests expanded, they navigated the dense canopy, finding fruits and roots within. When grass stretched wide, they followed the herds, moving across open spaces with the patience of the land itself. Their adaptability was not born of conquest, but of quiet resilience. They listened to the earth and moved in rhythm with its changes. Imagine the vast stretches of time that held their existence. A single human lifetime is but a blink in comparison. Yet for Homo erectus, hundreds of thousands of such lifetimes flowed one into another. Imagine watching the sun rise each day for 2 million years, watching the stars turn across the night sky, watching seasons bloom and fade. The sheer patience of such an existence is almost unfathomable. But in the stillness of that long endurance lies a kind of wisdom, the wisdom of persistence, of simply continuing, step by step, breath by breath. Their brains, larger than those of earlier hominins, opened the door to new possibilities. Perhaps they began to share more than just sounds. Perhaps they communicated with gestures, expressions, even proto-words. The seeds of language were there, faint but real, carried in their growing minds. With more complex thought came greater cooperation, stronger bonds, and deeper survival. They were not solitary creatures, but social, relying on one another, just as we rely on each other today. The warmth of companionship, the reassurance of a group, gave them strength. Around their fires, beneath the stars, in the shelter of caves and trees, they found not only safety, but belonging. As you rest now, imagine yourself drifting into their world, feeling the slow pulse of time, the steady breath of endurance. Homo erectus did not hurry. They did not rush. Their way of life unfolded in balance with the land, with the animals, with the fire, with the sky. In their long journey, we glimpse the essence of survival itself, not a sudden flash of brilliance, but the steady flame of persistence. And so, their story continues, flowing onward, like a river through deep time. Their footsteps echo across valleys, their fires flicker in the night, their tools glint in the sun. They remain with us, not only in memory but in our very being, for within us lives the endurance they embodied. Their story is not just theirs, it is ours, too, carried forward in the quiet persistence of life itself. The life of Homo erectus stretched not just across landscapes, but across ages, a river of existence winding slowly through time. To understand their survival, we must imagine not one generation, not even 100, but thousands upon thousands, each passing quietly into the next. The thread of their endurance was not woven in haste. but in steady, unbroken rhythm. Just as the tide rises and falls with calm certainty, their story moved through the centuries, guided by patience, balance, and quiet strength. Picture them in the early morning, when the first light spread across the horizon. The dew clung to blades of grass, the air cool and still. Birds stirred in the trees, their calls echoing across the land. From a small cluster of figures, Homo Erectus stirred as well. Some rose to tend the embers of a fire, coaxing the warmth back into flame. Others stretched their limbs, readying themselves for the day ahead. Children nestled close to their mothers, watching, learning, absorbing the world through quiet observation. Each day began not with alarm or urgency, but with the slow rhythm of routine, guided by the cycles of nature. Their survival depended on cooperation. Alone, they would have been vulnerable to predators, to hunger, to the elements. Together, they endured. The group moved like a living organism, each member contributing to the whole. Some gathered roots and fruits, others shaped tools, others hunted. Elders carried with them the memory of seasons past, guiding the group with their quiet knowledge. The young carried the promise of the future, their small hands mimicking the movements of their parents, learning the skills that would one day sustain them. The bond of the group was not written in words, but lived through action, through presence, through shared survival. As they moved across the land, their senses were attuned to every detail. The rustle of leaves might signal prey or predator. The scent of rain on the air promised water. The tracks pressed into soft earth told stories of animals that had passed before them. They were readers of the land, interpreters of signs, listeners to the language of nature. In this attentiveness, they thrived. For 2 million years, they carried within them the patience to observe, to learn, to adapt. Their tools, though simple to us now, were remarkable in their time. The hand axe, shaped with deliberate care, was not only a tool but a symbol of foresight. To make it required vision, the ability to see not only the stone in hand, but the shape hidden within, waiting to be revealed. With each strike of stone, upon stone, they carved away the unnecessary, uncovering the useful edge. The rhythm of this process was steady, unhurried, as if echoing the very patience of their lives. Once finished, the tool could last for years, serving countless purposes, a companion in their journey. Imagine them at the edge of a forest, where the light filtered gently through the canopy. The air was cooler there, the ground soft with fallen leaves. They might have gathered fruits from trees, roots from the earth, and small creatures that scurried in the undergrowth. In these shaded spaces, they found nourishment, not in abundance, but in enough. Their lives were not driven by excess, but by sufficiency, by the simple balance between effort and reward. In the open savanna, their days stretched longer. The sun beat down, the grass waved in the wind, and herds of animals moved across the plains. Homo erectus followed, step after step, mile after mile, their endurance carrying them forward. They did not need to chase with speed. Instead, they relied on the slow certainty of persistence. In time, the prey would tire, and the patient hunters would find their reward. In this way, they embodied the lesson of time itself, that what is steady, what is patient, what endures, will often outlast what is swift and sudden. As night fell, they gathered once more around the fire. The flames flickered, casting light upon their faces, painting shadows on the rocks and trees. The fire was a circle of safety, pushing back the darkness that teemed with unseen eyes. Around it, they may have shared food, or simply rested in silence, the crackling of flames their only companion. The fire gave warmth, but it also gave something deeper, a sense of continuity, of connection, of something steady in a world that was always changing. In its glow, they may have felt, if only faintly, the beginnings of belonging, of culture, of meaning. Across continents they traveled, carried not by haste, but by generations of movement. From Africa into Asia, into Indonesia, into Europe, their presence spread. Each new land offered challenges, and each time they adapted. In colder climates, they learned to use hides for warmth. In dense forests, they found food among the trees. On coasts and rivers, they drew nourishment from the waters. Their adaptability was not the conquest of nature, but a conversation with it, a willingness to adjust, to listen, to endure. Consider the span of their existence once more. For nearly 2 million years, their footsteps marked the earth. Imagine the rise and fall of countless seasons, the rains swelling rivers, the dry winds cracking the soil, the ice advancing, the warmth returning. Through it all, Homo erectus remained. Their endurance was not a burst of brilliance, but a long, steady flame, burning quietly across the ages. Their story is not one of sudden triumphs, but of balance. They lived not apart from the earth, but within it, shaped by its rhythms, guided by its cycles. Their survival teaches us that strength lies not only in innovation, but in persistence, in the steady beat of footsteps across plains, in the quiet shaping of stone into tool, in the careful tending of fire through the night, in the bonds of a group that endured together. And so, as you rest, let their story guide you. Let the patience of their journey echo in your breath, steady and calm. Let the endurance of their lives remind you of the strength that lies in stillness, in persistence, in balance. For in their long survival, we glimpse not only the past, but the timeless rhythm of life itself, flowing gently across the ages, carrying us with it, even now. The long survival of Homo erectus was not built upon sudden change or dramatic shifts, but upon a rhythm so steady that it mirrored the earth itself. They did not rush to become something new, nor did they cling tightly to what they had been. Instead, they moved like a river, always flowing, always adjusting, always enduring. And it is in this slow, steady passage through time that we find the heart of their story. Imagine them crossing a wide savanna. The grasses stretch endlessly, in every direction, their golden stalks swaying in the warm wind. The sun hovers above, casting long shadows that move with the group as they walk. Step by step, mile by mile, their journey unfolds. They carry no maps, no written guides, yet their eyes and instincts lead them. They know the signs of water, the flight of birds, the tracks of animals, the scent on the breeze. They know where to find shelter, where to seek food, where danger may lurk. Each step is taken with awareness, with connection to the land beneath their feet. They were not bound to one place alone. Over generations, they moved further, carrying their presence across continents. From the heart of Africa, they journeyed outward, following rivers, coasts, valleys, and plains. Into Asia they wandered, settling near lakes and forests, adapting to the humid air and dense greenery. Into colder lands they ventured, wrapping themselves in hides, seeking caves for shelter, learning to endure frost and snow. Their adaptability was not hurried invention, but gradual adjustment, a patience that matched the slow rhythm of the earth's changes. Picture their camps, small clusters of figures gathered around fires. Children played at the edges, imitating the movements of their parents, striking stones together, mimicking the act of cutting, copying the careful arrangement of sticks in a fire. In these small gestures, knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. There were no schools, no written lessons, no spoken words as we know them now, yet the transfer of wisdom was seamless. The young watched, learned, and carried forward the skills that had sustained their ancestors. In this way, their culture, simple though it may seem, endured as steadily as their footsteps. Their diet was rich in variety, shaped by the land around them. They ate fruits and nuts, roots and tubers, leaves and shoots. They hunted animals large and small, using their tools to cut flesh and crack bones, drawing nourishment even from the marrow hidden deep within. They fished in rivers, gathered shellfish along coasts, sought honey in the hives of wild bees. To survive for 2 million years required not only endurance, but flexibility, an openness to whatever the land could provide. In this, Homo erectus thrived. Their tools grew more refined with time. Early stones chipped roughly into edges gave way to hand axes with symmetry, crafted with care and foresight. Each strike of stone upon stone was deliberate, guided by knowledge that had been carried for countless generations. To hold such a tool was to hold both the past and the future in one's hand, the skill of ancestors and the promise of survival yet to come. These tools were not just practical objects, but symbols of continuity, of memory etched into stone and fire. Always fire remained their constant companion. Imagine a cool evening as darkness spreads across the land. The fire crackles, sending sparks into the air. Around it, Homo erectus gathers. The light paints their faces in warm tones, the shadows dancing across rocks and trees. The fire is their shield against predators, their warmth in the cold, their cook for food, their gathering place for connection. Without fire, the night is uncertain and filled with hidden dangers. With fire, the night becomes a place of belonging, of safety, of quiet reflection. In its glow, they endured, night after night, year after year, century after century. Though they lived in a world of danger, they were not helpless. They had no sharp claws, no great strength compared to lions or bears, yet they had persistence, cooperation, tools, and fire. These gifts were enough, and more than enough, to carry them through the ages. Their story is not one of dominance, but of balance. They did not conquer the earth, but lived within it, adjusting, adapting, enduring. Imagine the stars above them, the same constellations that shine over us shone over them. Perhaps they lay back in the grass, eyes lifted to the sky, watching as the heavens wheeled slowly overhead. They did not know the names of the stars, the distances of galaxies, the science of the cosmos, yet they felt its presence all the same. Perhaps they felt awe, perhaps curiosity, perhaps simply comfort in the steady glow above. In their gaze, we find connection, a reminder that though they were different, they were also kin. Their survival across 2 million years is a lesson in humility. Civilizations rise and fall in far shorter spans. Our own species has not yet equaled the duration of Homo erectus. To live so long required more than innovation. It required patience, adaptability, and an acceptance of the world as it was. They did not reshape the earth, but moved with it, allowing its cycles to guide their steps. And in that patience, they found endurance unmatched by any who came before or after. As you breathe slowly now, let their story move with you, calm and unhurried. Their footsteps echo in the silence, steady and soft. Their fires glow in the night, warm and gentle. Their tools rest in their hands, shaped with care. Their voices, faint though they may be, whisper across the ages, reminding us of the power of persistence, of patience, of endurance. And so their journey continues in our imagination, not as a tale of haste or conquest, but as a gentle reminder of balance. Homo erectus endured because they lived in rhythm with the earth, in step with its changes, in harmony with its flow. And as we drift with their story, we find rest in that rhythm, in that balance, in that quiet, steady flame that burns across the ages. The quiet persistence of Homo erectus was written not only in the landscapes they crossed, but in the very rhythm of their lives. Imagine them rising with the sun, their day guided not by clocks or schedules, but by the light in the sky and the needs of survival. The warmth of morning carried them into movement, into gathering, into searching. The coolness of evening guided them back to firelight, back to safety, back to the slow rhythm of rest. Each day folded into the next, seamless, steady, unhurried. Their survival was not shaped by dramatic leaps, but by an endless patience. Think of the forests they entered, dense with towering trees, where shadows and light mingled across the ground. The sounds of insects hummed in the air, the calls of birds echoed through the canopy, and in those vast spaces, Homo erectus found both challenges and sustenance. They learned the taste of wild fruits, the strength of roots that nourished them, the sweetness of honey hidden within hives, high above. And as predators moved silently through the shadows, Homo erectus learned watchfulness, the art of caution, the strength of togetherness, that in open grasslands, their lives shifted again. The wind carried scents across the plains, bringing signals of distant herds, of water waiting just beyond the horizon, of storms that gathered in the distance. Their eyes scanned the horizon, not for landmarks of stone or buildings, but for the subtle shifts in light and motion that told them where to go. When rains came, they moved with them, finding rivers swollen and lands rich with life. When dryness spread, they followed paths worn by countless animals, leading them to hidden springs, to shaded valleys where survival was possible. Always, their journey was one of listening to the earth. Generations rose and fell like the turning of seasons. Infants were carried, children grew, the old passed on their quiet wisdom before fading into memory. In this flow of life, there were no monuments, no written stories, yet the memory of each generation lived in the habits of the next. A skill in shaping stone, a way of building fire, a pathway known to water, all of it carried forward, unbroken, unforgotten. Their history was written not on walls, but in actions repeated until they became instinct, until they became part of the very way they lived. Their tools remained with them always. The hand axe, shaped so carefully from stone, fit into their palms as if it belonged there. With it they cut, they carved, they cracked, they endured. Its edges told a story of patience, each strike of stone upon stone slowly revealing the tool within, as though sculpting not only rock, but survival itself. These tools lasted across thousands of generations, a single form perfected and repeated, unchanged because it did not need to change. Its strength lay in its simplicity, in its reliability, in its timelessness. And then there was fire, not merely a spark, but a companion across the ages. Imagine the relief of flame on a cold night, the comfort of light when shadows pressed close, the smell of smoke drifting gently upward into the dark sky. Around fires, Homo erectus gathered, their bodies warmed, their food softened, their dangers kept at bay. It was here that voices, though not like ours, mingled together. Perhaps they laughed in low tones, perhaps they hummed, perhaps they exchanged sounds that carried meaning known only to them. In the flickering glow, bonds deepened, communities formed, generations strengthened. Fire was not just survival, it was belonging. Their journeys carried them across continents. Picture them standing on the edge of a vast coastline, the sea stretching endlessly before them. The waves rose and fell in rhythms as ancient as time itself. Shells dotted the shore, seaweed drifted, fish swam in shallow pools. For Homo erectus, the sea was both a barrier and a gift, a source of food and mystery. They gathered along the shores, adapting to its rhythms just as they had adapted to grassland and forest. Across valleys, mountains, and deserts, they spread, never bound to one place, but always connected to the land that sustained them. Their endurance was not without struggle. Fires sometimes burned the forests they depended on. Floods reshaped the valleys they knew. Droughts tested their patience. Predators tested their defenses. Yet, through all these challenges, they endured. They did not master the earth, but walked in step with it, bending when needed, standing firm when possible, always adapting, always flowing. This balance became their strength, this patience their shield, this quiet resilience their legacy. Imagine the stars overhead, the same stars that guided countless generations of their journeys. Perhaps they lifted their faces to the night sky, feeling something stir within, curiosity, wonder, or simply comfort in the vastness above. They could not name the stars, yet they saw their patterns. They could not measure their distance, yet they felt their presence. The sky connected them to something larger, something endless, something steady in a world of constant change. Their 2-million-year survival was not a story of triumph over nature, but of harmony within it. Where others might have struggled briefly and faded, Homo erectus endured because they did not fight against the flow, but moved with it. They became part of the rhythm, part of the land, part of the patient heartbeat of time. As you listen, let your breath follow that same rhythm, slow, steady, unhurried. Feel the patience of their steps across the plains, the warmth of their fires in the dark, the simplicity of their tools in their hands. Let their endurance become a gentle reminder. Survival need not always come from haste or force, but from balance, from patience, from the quiet strength of persistence. And so, their story moves onward, across the long expanse of years, through shifting landscapes and changing skies, always flowing, always enduring, always in rhythm with the earth itself. Across the span of 2 million years, the story of Homo erectus unfolded like a slow and steady song, a melody woven into the landscapes they crossed and the generations they nurtured. To imagine their existence is to enter a world without hurry, a world where time stretched wide and the rhythm of life moved in harmony with the earth itself. They were not conquerors, but companions to the land, learning from it, leaning upon it, moving always in its flow. Picture them on a cool dawn. When the first light of the sun touches the horizon, the air is filled with the sense of dew and grass, the faint sounds of waking birds, the distant calls of animals stirring. Homo erectus rises with the light, gathering strength from the warmth of daybreak. There are no alarms, no pressing clocks, only the natural invitation to begin again. Their camp stirs to life slowly, embers glowing back into flame, the first movements of search and gathering beginning with calm purpose. This was the rhythm of countless mornings, repeated across centuries, across continents, across generations. Their lives were lived in small groups, bound not by written agreements, but by trust, by kinship, by the necessity of togetherness. Around them, the world was both nurturing and testing. The forests offered fruits, but also shadows where predators lurked. The plains held herds that could feed them, but also dangers of claws and teeth. The rivers quenched their thirst, yet sometimes surged with floods that forced them to move. And through it all, they endured by leaning into their bonds with one another. Each person, no matter how young or old, played a role in the great endurance of the group. Generations came and went, like the passing of seasons. A child watched an elder-shaped stone, saw the careful strike of hand upon rock, and tried to imitate it. Another child watched sparks become flame, and slowly learned the patience required to coax fire into being. No words were needed, no formal lessons, only watchful eyes, quiet repetition, and steady practice. In this way, the knowledge of survival never ended. It lived within them, carried forward as naturally as the breath they drew each day. Their stone tools, shaped by patient hands, tell us their story still, simple, symmetrical, efficient. They were not elaborate but endlessly useful. In each carefully chipped edge, there is the persistence of countless generations. Tools made in Africa were echoed by tools shaped in Asia, showing us that wherever they roamed, their way of life remained constant, their wisdom traveling with them across every landscape. These stones are not just artifacts, they are echoes of endurance, voices from a time when survival was an art of patience. Fire remained at the center of their world. Imagine the glow of flame as night settles in, the warmth it sends into the cool air, the way its light pushes back the vast dark. Fire allowed them to roast roots, soften meat, and share in warmth that bound them closer. Around the fire, the day's journey was set aside, replaced by the quiet calm of rest. The shadows danced across their faces, and in that shared glow, a simple truth unfolded. They belonged to one another, and together they belonged to the earth. Fire was their guardian, their comfort, their continuity. Through countless challenges, they did not falter. Seasons of drought tested their patience, yet they found water still. Storms reshaped the land, yet they moved onward. Predators pressed at the edges, yet they stood firm together, tools and fire in hand. Unlike the sudden rise and fall of many other beings, Homo erectus endured through quiet adaptation, through balance, through the art of patience. This was not triumph in the sense we often imagine, but a softer, deeper triumph, the triumph of persistence. Picture them walking now, a small band moving across a plain as the sun lowers toward the horizon. Their steps are steady, measured, never rushed. A child is carried, another walks close to a parent's side, while hunters keep watch at the edges. Ahead, the silhouettes of trees mark the promise of water, of shelter, of rest. Behind them, the traces of their journey are quickly erased by wind and time, yet their presence moves onward. In every step, there is continuity. In every breath, there is endurance. 2 million years longer than our species has yet walked the earth. Their patience, their quiet adaptability, allowed them to persist through ages of shifting climate, through landscapes that changed again and again. While others vanished, Homo erectus remained, a steady thread woven through the vast tapestry of time. They did not rush to transform the earth, but instead became part of it, accepting its challenges, drawing strength from its gifts, flowing always with its rhythm. Now imagine the stars above them, glowing in the dark sky. Perhaps they sat in silence, watching those same stars we see tonight. They did not name them, yet the sight of their steady light may have stirred within them the same quiet wonder we feel now. To gaze at the sky was to feel small, yet also to feel connected to each other, to the earth, to the vastness beyond. That connection, unspoken yet enduring, may have been one of the greatest gifts they carried through the long ages, and as we let their story move through us now, we to find ourselves slowing, breathing, resting. Their endurance becomes a gentle reminder. Life does not always need haste to survive. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies in patience. Sometimes, survival is not about rushing forward, but about listening, about waiting, about moving with the flow of time itself. So their story continues, not in monuments of stone or written words, but in the quiet rhythm of survival carried across 2 million years, a story not of conquest, but of balance, a story not of sudden brilliance, but of steady light, a story that still whispers to us now, across the ages, in the quiet patience of our own breath. The story of Homo erectus is not marked by sudden changes or sharp divisions, but by the continuity of life stretched out over endless generations. To step into their world is to step into a slower rhythm, where centuries pass like seasons, and survival is not a race but a patient unfolding. Their existence was a dialogue with the earth, gentle, steady, balanced. Picture them moving through a forest, where the canopy above filters the sunlight into shifting patterns on the ground. The air is thick with the fragrance of damp soil, leaves, and flowers. Insects buzz, birds call, and in the undergrowth, small animals dart through the shadows. Homo erectus moves carefully here, their senses alert, their steps quiet. They gather fruits when they find them, search for roots beneath the soil, and watch for signs of honey high in the trees. They know which plants nourish and which can harm, knowledge carried forward by unbroken memory. As the day unfolds, they rest in the shade, the younger ones playing quietly, mimicking the actions of their elders. A child takes 2 stones and strikes them together, imitating the careful rhythm of tool-making. Another watches as someone tends to fire, feeding it with dry twigs, blowing gently on embers until the flames rise once more. These are not lessons written or spoken, but lessons lived. Each movement is practice, each attempt part of the slow rhythm of learning. Knowledge does not rush here. It flows, like a river, carried from one to another, ensuring the survival of the group. When the time comes to move, they do so with patience. Their journeys are not hurried migrations, but steady wanderings shaped by the changing world around them. A river that once gave water may dry, urging them onward. Herds of animals may shift their paths, guiding Homo erectus in pursuit. Rains may fall in abundance in one place, while drought grips another. Always, they move with the land, adjusting their steps to its rhythms. They do not fight against its changes, but adapt to them, flowing as naturally as the seasons themselves. On the open plains, their skills take on a different shape. The horizon stretches wide, the wind sweeps across the grasses, and the sun burns hot above. Here, sight becomes their guide, their eyes scanning for the movement of animals, for the shimmer of water in the distance, for the trees that mark a river or stream. Their tools, simple yet reliable, help them prepare food, crack bones for marrow, carve wood, shape hides. Each act of survival is quiet, deliberate, patient. They need no grand inventions, for the tools they hold are already enough. Their strength lies not in sudden transformation, but in the enduring usefulness of what they already know. At night, their fires burn again, steady and warm. Imagine the scene. Figures gathered close, flames casting a circle of light in the darkness. Beyond that circle lies the unknown, the calls of night animals, the rustle of unseen movement, the vast stretch of stars above. Within the circle lies safety, warmth, belonging. Children fall asleep to the sound of crackling wood, while elders gaze into the flames, their thoughts drifting like sparks into the night sky. Fire is not only survival, it is companionship, the steady heartbeat of their existence. Predators stalk the same lands, yet Homo erectus endures. Lions move silently through the grass, leopards wait in the branches of trees, snakes glide unseen. Yet through their togetherness, their tools, their fire, they remain. They do not seek to destroy these dangers, but to live alongside them, cautious yet persistent. It is a fragile balance, yet one that carried them further than most beings could endure. And as the climate shifted, warming, cooling, drying, flooding, Homo erectus remained. Ice advanced and retreated, forests grew and shrank, rivers carved new paths across the land. Each change brought challenge, but also opportunity. They did not resist the earth's shifts, but followed them, adjusting their steps to new rhythms, learning new ways to survive. In this patience lay their greatest gift, the ability to endure not just years or centuries, but millions of years. Imagine a single moment, a small band walking across a wide valley, the wind carrying the scent of rain. Behind them lie the memories of past camps, fires long extinguished, tools left behind. Ahead lies uncertainty, yet also possibility. They do not know what awaits, yet they move forward all the same. Each step is small, yet across 2 million years, these small steps carried them across continents, across ages, across the very shape of the earth itself. And always, above them, the stars. The constellations we know today were the same that they saw then, scattered across the dark sky. They could not measure them, but they could feel their presence. Perhaps they felt wonder, perhaps they felt comfort, perhaps simply awareness that there was something vast beyond their reach. In their silence, Under the same stars we gaze at now, we find connection, a thread of humanity stretching back into the deep past. The story of Homo erectus is not a tale of sudden greatness, but of quiet persistence. They remind us that survival does not always come from speed, from power, from dominance. Sometimes it comes from patience, from flexibility, from endurance. Their journey is a meditation on balance, a reminder of how deeply life is tied to the rhythms of the earth. As you listen, let your breath mirror their patience, slow, steady, unhurried. Feel the calm of their fires, the persistence of their steps, the simplicity of their tools. In their story, let your mind find rest, for they are not only ancestors of humanity, but teachers of endurance, guides in the art of quiet survival, and so their journey continues in our imagination, carried softly across the silence of time, reminding us still that to endure is not always to rush forward, but to live in rhythm with the world, patiently, steadily, as they did for 2 million years. The long presence of Homo erectus upon the earth was like a steady breath, inhaling and exhaling across the ages. To imagine their story is to imagine not a sudden blaze, but a flame that burned slowly, patiently, across countless generations. Their endurance was not born of dominance or mastery, but of balance, of adaptability, of flowing with the world around them. They were not in conflict with the earth, but in conversation with it, answering its changes with quiet persistence. Picture them standing at the edge of a wide river. The water moves steadily, its surface catching the light of the sun, glittering as it flows. Fish dart beneath, ripples spread from the wings of birds, skimming the surface, and the reeds at the edges sway gently with the current. Homo erectus kneels here, drinking, washing, perhaps casting stones into the water, as children do. The river is life, a place to quench thirst, to find food, to follow as it winds across the land. Where rivers went, Homo erectus often followed, moving with the pulse of water that carved through valleys and plains. When rivers dried or shifted, they moved on. When rains came in abundance, they adapted again. Their story is a constant rhythm of movement, not in haste, but in patience. Each shift in the earth was met with endurance. Each challenge was met with quiet flexibility. Their camps, temporary and simple, left little mark upon the earth. Yet their presence carried forward, leaving behind tools and fire-blackened stones that still whisper to us today. In the forests, they found shade and shelter, foods that nourished, and dangers that taught them caution. In the grasslands, they found wide horizons, herds to hunt, and space to move freely. In the mountains, they found caves for shelter, stone for tools, and new challenges to meet. In each landscape, they listened, adapted, and endured. Their survival was not tied to one place, but to the ability to belong everywhere the earth allowed them to go. Their tools remained with them always, stones shaped by steady hands, chipped into edges sharp enough to cut, to carve, to prepare. The hand axe, so simple yet so enduring, passed through thousands of generations with little change. In its form lies the persistence of Homo erectus, practical, reliable, timeless. To hold such a tool was to hold connection to ancestors who had shaped tools the same way countless years before, and connection to descendants who would carry them onward into the future. And then there was fire, their steadfast companion. Imagine the fire at night, its flames flickering against stone walls of a cave, its glow spreading warmth into the cool air. Beyond the circle of light, darkness presses close, filled with sounds of movement, calls of animals, whispers of the unknown. Yet within the glow, there is safety, there is comfort, there is belonging. Fire softened food, warmed bodies, and brought people together. It was not only a tool, but a gathering place, a center of life. Around fire, they rested, they healed, they shared. The fire burned not just wood, but time itself, marking the passing of nights and the endurance of generations. Imagine a band of Homo erectus moving along a coastline. The ocean stretches endlessly before them, its waves rolling. In steady rhythm, they search the shallows for shellfish, gather seaweed, watch the movements of seabirds to find where fish may be. The sea offers food, yet also mystery. They cannot cross it, yet they live beside it, shaped by its abundance, humbled by its immensity. To them, it was not an obstacle to overcome, but another rhythm to live alongside. Their endurance was tested by predators, by hunger, by storms, by the changing climate of the earth. Yet they survived, not because they were stronger or faster than others, but because they were patient, cooperative, adaptable. Their strength was not in any single individual, but in the group, in the quiet bonds that tied them together. They were not solitary survivors, but communities, small and fragile, yet strong in their togetherness. Think of the generations that passed, thousands upon thousands of lives lived, one after another, like waves rolling endlessly onto shore. Infants born into arms warmed by firelight, children learning by watching, repeating the actions of their elders until those actions became their own. Adults carrying the weight of survival, gathering, hunting, protecting, teaching, elders passing their wisdom quietly before fading into memory. Each generation became part of the thread that stretched a million years, unbroken, enduring. As we rest with their story now, it is worth remembering that no human civilization, no city, no nation has endured as long as Homo erectus endured. Our own species has not yet matched their span of survival. They remind us that life's greatest strength may lie not in invention or in conquest, but in the art of living patiently, of adapting, of moving with the flow of the world. At night, the stars still shone above them, scattered across the dark sky. Perhaps they felt awe, perhaps peace, perhaps simply awareness of something vast and steady beyond their reach. In those stars, they may have found the same quiet comfort we find now, a reminder that though life is fragile, it is also part of something endless. As your breath slows now, imagine their fires burning quietly in the dark, their tools resting on the ground, their footsteps echoing softly across the land. Imagine their presence, steady, calm, enduring, across the ages. In their story, find the reminder that survival need not always be loud or sudden. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, unhurried. Sometimes it is as simple as a flame in the dark, as steady as a step across the plain, as calm as the flow of a river winding endlessly on. And so their story continues, not in monuments or in words, but in the very rhythm of life itself, slow, steady, patient, enduring, a story that still whispers to us now, across the silence of time. The story of Homo erectus is not one of sudden brilliance, but of steady light, a glow that endured across millions of years. Their presence upon the earth was not marked by towering monuments or written words, but by the simple acts of living, repeated day after day, generation after generation. To imagine their existence is to imagine patience itself, stretched across valleys, mountains, rivers, and plains, across continents and ages, always flowing, always adapting, always enduring. Picture a group of them at dusk, as the sun lowers toward the horizon. The grasses of the plain are painted gold in the fading light, and the air cools as shadows grow longer. They walk together, their pace unhurried, their steps steady. Some carry the weight of gathered food, others carry children, while a few walk at the edges, watchful of the world beyond. Ahead lies a grove of trees, a place where they may stop for the night, where fire will soon be kindled, where warmth and safety will gather them together. Their movement is not rushed, but purposeful, guided by instinct, by memory, by trust in one another. The children among them grow into this rhythm without question. They learn by watching, by imitating, by trying again and again until the motions of survival become natural. They pick up stones and strike them together, their small hands clumsy but eager. They watch sparks fly from a fire, reaching toward the flames with fascination, before being gently drawn back to safety. They observe the careful preparation of food, the shaping of hides, the setting of traps, the watchful scanning of the horizon. In time, they too will carry these tasks, and so the chain of knowledge remains unbroken. The adults bear the responsibility of the group's survival, but not alone. They move together, they protect one another, they share in the work. A successful hunt is shared, not hoarded. A fire is tended not by one, but by many. Each role blends into the others, each person contributing in their own way. There are no rulers, no written laws, but the quiet necessity of cooperation binds them together more strongly than words. Their tools, shaped from stone, remain close at hand. A hand axe lies upon the ground, chipped to a sharp edge, ready for use. Its form has not changed in centuries, nor does it need to. It is simple, effective, timeless. With it they cut meat, crack bones, scrape hides, carve wood. In its sharp edges lies their persistence, a design so enduring that it outlasted entire ages. These tools, though silent, speak across time, telling us of their patience, their steadiness, their quiet mastery of survival. Fire glows again as night falls. Imagine the flickering light dancing across their faces, the warmth spreading into the cool air. Beyond the circle of firelight, the world is filled with unknown sounds, the calls of distant animals, the rustle of leaves, the sigh of wind across the plain. But within the fire's glow, there is comfort, there is belonging. The flames are tended carefully, fed with wood, protected from wind, cherished as a gift. Without fire, the night is dangerous and cold. With fire, the night becomes a place of peace, a time of rest, a sanctuary. Predators watch from the darkness, their eyes glinting faintly in the distance, yet they do not approach. The fire keeps them away. The togetherness of the group protects them. Homo erectus does not fight to dominate the land, but to endure within it. They live alongside the lion, the leopard, the snake, the eagle. They do not erase these dangers, but respect them, adapting always, cautious always, enduring always. Seasons pass, each with its challenges and gifts. Rains fall and the land grows green, rich with food. Drought arrives and the rivers shrink, forcing the group to move onward. In search of new water, cold winds sweep across the plains, and they wrap themselves in hides, drawing closer to fire. Each season tests them, but each season also teaches them. They do not resist the cycles of the earth, but bend with them, flowing as naturally as the rivers and winds themselves. Generations pass in this rhythm, one after another, like beads strung across the endless thread of time. Each child grows to adulthood, learns the skills of survival, bears children of their own, and then passes into memory. Thousands upon thousands of lives unfold in this way, a continuity so long that it dwarfs the span of every empire that would one day rise and fall. Their story is not written in stone monuments, but in the patient endurance of life itself. Imagine them gathered at the edge of a cave during a storm. Rain pours down in sheets, lightning flashes across the sky, thunder rolls across the valley, yet within the cave, their fire burns steadily, protected by stone. They sit close together, the flames reflecting in their eyes, the storm raging outside but unable to touch them. The children drift to sleep against the warmth of their parents, while the adults watch quietly, their minds calm, their patience deep. Storm will pass, as all storms do, and they will continue on, unchanged, enduring, and beyond the storm. Beyond the night, the stars shine once more, the same stars we see now, the same endless sky. Homo erectus looked upward, as we do, feeling the quiet vastness of the cosmos. They could not measure its distance, but they could feel its presence. Perhaps they found comfort in its steadiness, perhaps awe in its immensity. Whatever they felt, they carried it with them, just as we do now. As you breathe slowly, imagine their presence beside you, steady footsteps across plains, quiet fires glowing in the night, tools resting in their hands. Their endurance whispers through time, reminding us of the strength of patience, of the power of persistence, of the art of balance. They did not rush forward, yet they endured longer than any who came before. Their story is not one of conquest, but of harmony, not of sudden brilliance, but of steady light. And so their journey continues, across the long arc of history, reminding us still that survival is not always about haste or power. Sometimes it is about patience. Sometimes it is about adaptability. Sometimes it is about the quiet rhythm of life, lived in balance with the world. Their story, carried on the winds of time, still moves gently through us now, a reminder that we too are part of this rhythm, part of this continuity, part of this ancient endurance. The story of Homo erectus stretches onward, not in sudden bursts of brilliance, but in the slow and steady heartbeat of time. Their lives were measured not by conquest or invention, but by persistence. They walked through shifting landscapes, over volcanic soils, along river valleys, through dense forests, and across wide savannas, and wherever they went, they learned to endure. Their very presence upon the earth was a quiet conversation with the land, a dialogue written not in words, but in firelight, in footprints, in tools, in the warmth of togetherness. Picture them once more at dawn, standing at the edge of a river. Mist rises gently from the water, curling like soft breath into the cool air. The surface of the river reflects the first pale glow of the sun, stretching golden threads across its rippling face. Homo erectus kneels to drink, cupping hands together, the coolness refreshing, the water vital. Others cast their eyes over the horizon, scanning for signs of movement, always aware, always attentive. The river is a place of life, but also a place of risk, where predators come to drink, where danger may wait unseen. Yet still, they come, because water is essential, and with care, with patience, with vigilance, they endure. Beside the river, they gather stones. Smooth rocks lie waiting, shaped by countless years of water's touch. In steady hands, these stones are transformed. One sharp strike, then another, and the rock splits, edges flaking away to reveal a tool within. The rhythm of stone on stone echoes softly, a sound carried through the morning air. It is a sound that repeats across centuries, across continents, across lifetimes. Each flake removed brings the tool closer to its purpose, a timeless design that serves generation after generation. They rest in the shade of trees, the day warming steadily. The younger ones play, tumbling in the dust, learning strength and balance, their laughter soft and fleeting. The older ones watch, smiling faintly, though their eyes remain alert. They have seen many seasons, many journeys, and their knowledge guides the group. In their presence, the children are safe, their curiosity unfolding within the careful boundaries set by those who came before. As midday passes, the air grows heavy, cicadas singing in the heat. The group moves slowly, conserving energy, seeking shade where they can. Their world is not hurried. Each decision is deliberate, each action measured against the needs of survival. They do not waste strength, for strength is precious. They do not waste time, for time itself is their greatest ally. Day by day, step by step, they move forward, always enduring. When night returns, fire once again becomes the center. Imagine the sparks rising, drifting upward into the dark sky like tiny stars, merging with the endless canopy above. The flames flicker and dance, and shadows stretch long across the ground. Around the fire, they gather close, eating quietly, resting, their tired bodies sharing warmth. Perhaps stories are told in gestures, in sounds, in shared memory. Perhaps wisdom is passed, not in words, but in demonstration, in the simple act of showing, of guiding, of repeating. Around the fire, knowledge is carried forward, as natural as breathing, as essential as the flame itself. Beyond the light, the land remains alive. Hyenas call in the distance, their voices rising and falling like eerie laughter across the plains. The rustle of unseen creatures stirs the tall grass. An owl sweeps silently overhead, wings catching the fire's glow for a moment before fading into darkness. Yet still, they remain calm, for they know the night. They have learned its patterns, its dangers, its gifts. They live with the night, not against it. The passage of time is slow, almost immeasurable, yet it continues always. Seasons change, landscapes shift, even climates alter, but Homo erectus adapts. They move when they must, they stay when they can, they learn with every change. Across deserts, they carry the memory of water. Across forests, they carry the memory of fire. Across mountains, they carry the memory of plains. Their survival is not tied to one place, but to the rhythm of movement itself, the patience of adjustment, the wisdom of continuity. Imagine them in a colder land, breath rising in pale clouds, snow dusting the ground in faint white layers. They huddle near fire, hides wrapped around them. The flames a lifeline against the chill. Food is scarcer, movement slower, but still they endure. They dig roots from frozen soil, they crack bones for marrow, they follow herds through the cold, step after step, and as the fire warms their bodies, so too does their togetherness warm their spirits. They endure because they endure together, a single thread woven through many lives. Unbroken, strong, now, return to the image of stars above. For millions of years, they looked at the same constellations, though they may not have named them. They saw the same moon, waxing and waning, glowing softly in the sky. They felt the same pull of night, the same rhythm of day. Their gaze upward was quiet, contemplative, perhaps filled with wonder, perhaps simply filled with awareness. Whatever they felt, it was part of their being, just as it is part of ours. In those shared skies, we are connected still. As you breathe, slowly, imagine yourself resting beside their fire, feeling the warmth on your face, hearing the crackle of wood, the soft sigh of wind through grass, the distant calls of the night. You are part of their circle, part of their endurance, part of their unbroken story. Their patience flows into you, reminding you that life is not always about speed or conquest, but about persistence, about balance, about trust in the slow unfolding of time. And so the story of Homo erectus continues, stretching onward like a gentle current, always moving, never rushing, carrying with it the lessons of survival, of community, of endurance. They remind us still, across millions of years, that to live is to adapt, to endure, to remain, and in that quiet persistence, there is peace. The journey of Homo erectus continues across valleys and rivers, through forests and plains, as steady as the turning of the earth itself. Their presence was not a sudden spark, but a long glow, a flame carried carefully through the winds of time. For nearly 2 million years, they walked upon the land, and in every step, they carried the quiet art of endurance. To think of their lives is to think of patience itself, stretched across generations, steady, unbroken, flowing like the rivers that shaped their world. Imagine them at the edge of a vast plain, the tall grasses swaying in the wind. The horizon stretches endlessly, painted in warm gold beneath the late afternoon sun. They stand together, scanning the distance. Some move cautiously into the grasses, their eyes sharp, their ears alert, their movements quiet. Others remain near the trees, tending the young, preparing the fire, ready to share in the tasks of survival. There is no rush, no waste of motion, only the calm efficiency of beings who know their place within the cycles of the land. Their tools remain close at hand, simple and enduring. A hand axe rests upon the ground, its edges sharp from careful flaking. Another tool, smaller, is used for scraping hides, for preparing food, for tasks that fill the hours of each day. The design of these tools has remained unchanged for countless generations, because they do not need to change. They are enough. They are timeless. Each one, shaped from stone, is both a creation of the present and a memory of the past, a bridge between generations. Around them, the land is alive with other creatures. Herds of grazing animals move across the plains, their hooves stirring dust into the air. Birds rise and settle again, their calls drifting across the wind. Predators linger at the edges, their movements watchful, cautious, waiting for weakness. Yet Homo erectus does not live in fear, but in awareness. They move carefully, they observe constantly, they learn the patterns of those who share their world. They do not conquer the land, but live within it, always adjusting, always enduring. Night comes, as it always does, and fire once more becomes the heart of their circle. The flames crackle softly, sparks drifting upward into the dark, merging with the stars above. They sit close, the warmth wrapping around them like a blanket. The children grow quiet, their energy fading, their eyes heavy with sleep. The adults remain alert, their senses attuned to the night, but their hearts are calm within the glow of fire. The fire is not only warmth, but safety, a presence as vital as water, as essential as breath. Beyond the firelight, the darkness holds its mysteries. The distant call of a lion rolls through the night, deep and resonant. The rustle of unseen creatures stirs the grasses, yet still, they remain, comforted by the fire, protected by togetherness. For millions of nights they lived this way, the rhythm of fire and darkness marking the slow passage of time. It was in these circles of light that knowledge was shared, where survival was taught, where lives unfolded quietly, steadily, without haste. Seasons shifted, bringing rains that turned the land green, bringing droughts that cracked the soil, bringing cold winds that swept across the earth. In each season, Homo erectus endured. They moved with the rains, followed the herds, sought shelter when storms raged. They learned to find roots hidden beneath the soil, to gather fruits when trees were heavy with them, to track animals across long distances. Their survival was not tied to one place, but to the adaptability that flowed within them. Imagine them in a forest, the canopy dense above, sunlight filtering in soft beams through the leaves. The air is cooler here, filled with the calls of birds and the rustle of branches. They move quietly along the forest floor, watching, listening, gathering what they need. The younger ones climb trees, their movements nimble, their laughter carried in echoes. The older ones gather fruits, break branches for firewood, search for signs of water. In the shade of the forest, they find rest, and in its abundance, They find sustenance. Now, imagine them on the move, walking across rocky ground beneath a wide sky. Their pace is steady, their eyes scanning the land ahead. They carry with them what they can: tools, food, fire kept alive in smoldering embers. Children are carried when tired, rested when needed, but the group always moves together. There is no separation, no one left behind. Their strength is not in individuals, but in their unity, in the way each life is bound to the others. Generations pass in this rhythm, one after another, like waves upon a shore. Each child grows into the rhythm of survival, learns the tools, learns the fire, learns the patience of the seasons. Each adult teaches, guides, protects, and in time, passes into memory. Thousands upon thousands of lives unfold in this way, a continuity so long and steady that it stretches far beyond our own sense of time. To imagine it is to imagine a deep river, flowing endlessly, carrying with it the essence of endurance. Storms come, fierce and sudden, with rain pounding the earth and lightning splitting the sky. Yet even here, they endure. They find shelter in caves, their fires glowing against stone walls, their bodies pressed together for warmth. The storm rages outside, but within, they remain calm, waiting, patient. They do not fight the storm, but let it pass, knowing that all storms pass in time. This patience, this acceptance, was their way, and it carried them across ages. As the night clears, stars reveal themselves once more. The same stars we see now, the same moon rising and falling, the same endless sky. For millions of years, Homo erectus looked upward, their gaze touching the same constellations that touch us now. Perhaps they felt awe, perhaps they felt curiosity, perhaps they felt only the quiet presence of something greater. Whatever they felt, it became part of their being, carried silently through the ages, shared between them and us. As you rest now, imagine their fire glowing softly beside you. Feel the warmth on your skin, hear the quiet crackle of wood, the distant sounds of the night beyond. You are part of their circle, part of their unbroken endurance. Their patience flows into you, reminding you that survival is not about haste, but about presence, about balance, about the quiet trust in life itself. And so their journey continues, across centuries, across continents, across the long arc of history. The story of Homo erectus is the story of persistence itself, of lives lived in harmony with the earth, of the strength found not in sudden brilliance, but in steady light. Their flame, carried so carefully for so long, still glows within us, reminding us of what it means to endure. The story of Homo erectus draws to its quiet conclusion, not with sudden endings, but with the same patience that carried them across 2 million years. Their presence upon the earth was like a long breath, steady and unbroken, flowing through countless generations, through countless landscapes, through countless nights of fire and stars. They did not rush through history, they did not demand it bend to their will. Instead, they moved with it, a quiet current in the great river of time. To reflect upon their lives is to reflect upon endurance itself. They lived through shifting climates, through endless cycles of abundance and scarcity, through challenges both great and small. They walked across continents, carrying fire in their hands, carrying memory in their minds, carrying life within their hearts, and always, they endured. Imagine their fires glowing now for the last time in our story. The flames danced softly, sparks rising gently into the night sky, drifting upward like stars returning to their place among the heavens. Around the fire, their circle rests together, as they have for millions of nights. Children lie close, their breathing steady, their dreams woven into the warmth. Adults keep watch, their eyes reflecting the glow, their patience as deep as the earth beneath them. Beyond the circle, the world continues, the grasses swaying in the wind, the rivers moving steadily, the stars shining quietly above. It was in these simple rhythms that their greatness lay, not in monuments or words, but in their patience, in their adaptability, in their quiet belonging to the earth. For nearly 2 million years, their presence shaped the land, not by force, but by endurance. They were not conquerors, but companions of the earth, living with it, listening to it, flowing with its endless changes. Their story does not vanish with time, it lingers within us still, in the steady beat of our hearts, in the patience we carry, through our own struggles, in the warmth we find in fire, and in each other. Their endurance continues. The flame they carried so carefully is still alive. passed down through countless generations, flowing gently into us. Now imagine yourself resting within their circle. The fire glows warmly before you, casting soft light upon the ground. The night air is cool, the wind gentle, the stars endless above. You breathe slowly, deeply, your body calm, your mind at peace. Around you, the presence of endurance surrounds you, holding you, reminding you that you are part of the same story, part of the same earth, part of the same flow of time. And as the fire fades to embers, as the stars grow brighter in the stillness, you let go into rest. The patience of millions of years whispers through you, guiding you gently into dreams. There is no rush, no haste, only the quiet rhythm of life, steady and unbroken, carrying you into calm. The story of Homo erectus closes now, not with an ending, but with continuity. For their flame remains, their endurance lives on, and the same earth that held them holds you still. Rest now in that knowledge, rest in that peace, rest in the long patience of time itself. The fire is warm, the night is calm, the stars are steady. The journey continues, even as you sleep.